welcome to the latest episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and I'm here to review all the latest films in theaters, as well as any as you recommend, whether they be recent films or old school movies. Now, before we get into today's episode, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you stay up to date with all the latest videos that show up. Also, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets that you see below. Now, today we're going to be reviewing another Oscar favorite known as The Favorite. This one is generating a ton of buzz, especially for its three lead actresses, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman. And, yeah, I mean, personally, I am not a huge fan of Victorian, art house films. I usually kind of find them quite dry and boring, and, I'm just not a huge fan of them. But this trailer intrigued me because it did give me a little bit more of a different aspect than what I'm normally used to when it comes to Victorian films. Plus, with the cast, I just kind of had to give it kind of more of a wider landscape to give it a more of a viewable watch. And, because it is an Oscar favorite, I had to find some time to watch it so I could see what all the buzz was about and why these particular actresses were getting so much nominations and recognition, as Olivia Colman just won Best Actress in a Comedy at the Golden Globes, and I'm sure she'll be up for nomination for Best Actress, as well as Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz both being up for Best Supporting. Now, before we get into the actual plot and everything that goes with it, I'm a huge fan of all three of these women. I mean, I've been following Emma Stone probably since the first time I've seen her in a film, which would have been Superbad. And then, of course, she had her breakout, well, not necessarily breakout, she was already a breakout star, but she had her big kind of Oscar moment with La La Land. And then, of course, you have Rachel Weisz, who I've been watching ever since she was, the librarian on The Mummy. And she's kind of been in and out of the spotlight. She hasn't really been doing anything real, big. So, this is something that has been something that we haven't seen from her in quite a while. So to see her kind of step up in a huge role again, I was definitely taking quite notice to her. And Olivia Colman, honestly, the only things I've really ever seen her in is that she was in, the BBC version of Broadchurch with David Tennant, and she was really, really good in it. So to see her also in the forefront of a big Oscar favorite film, I was actually quite intrigued to see how she would do. So all three of these actresses, as well as Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult is in the film as well, and he's a great character actor. He plays Beast in the recent X-Men films. And then he was also, I'm blanking on his character name, but he was the main kind of grunge guy in Mad Max. Everyone knows him from "It's a Lovely Day." That guy. so I love him as a character actor. So to see him in this as well, the cast looks solid overall. The general plot of the film is that this does take place in the early 1700s, and it's about the Queen Anne of England, and it's during the time where England, I guess, is at war with France, and she's kind of she's not necessarily crazy. I mean, she kind of is, but she's at her weakest to a point, and she basically kind of lets all her duties go to her best friend, Sarah, or Lady Sarah of Marlborough, or Marlborough. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names. So even though Queen Anne, played by Olivia Colman, is the actual queen, she usually just lets Lady Sarah kind of run shop and kind of do everything for her. And so that upsets quite a lot of people in the kingdom. And then one day, a slew of new servants or maids show up, and one of them is one of the cousins of Lady Sarah, goes by the name of Abigail, played by Emma Stone. And Abigail, she's kind of fallen on hard times. She was from a rich family, but her father was a gambler, and he actually lost her in a card game to a German guy who, took care of, or who, took her from her father, raped her, treated her like dirt, and so she's kind of fallen quite off the tree, and so she's looked to find work at the castle since her cousin, Lady Sarah, is there, and from there, it's kind of, the cat and mouse game begins, whereas Abigail slowly starts climbing up the ranks of favor with Queen Anne, as Queen Anne's got quite a bunch of illnesses, but the main one in this film is that she's got really bad gout on her right leg, and Abigail finds a remedy that soothes the pain or makes her feel less pain in the leg than normal, and because of that, she starts to gain favor with Lady Sarah and Queen Anne. But then she starts to spend more time with Queen Anne, which starts to make Lady Sarah jealous, and you're starting to see the table weigh in favor, starting to go towards Abigail's way, and then Sarah's way. It's a big cat and mouse game of which woman is going to gain the favor of the queen, therefore the most power. And that's kind of what the story is. It's just watching these two women kind of in a tug-of-war battle of wits to try to gain the favor of the queen. That's basically the general plot. What works in this movie is clearly the three performances of the three leads of Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman. All three of them are fantastic in their own right. And the reason for all the nominations that they're getting and wins in terms of Olivia Colman are rightfully deserved. All three of these women knock them out of the park. Do I think they're the best performances of 2018? No, I still think that goes to Toni Collette and Lady Gaga. But these three women do a fantastic job throughout. Olivia Colman, in particular, yes, she does go over the top a little bit in certain points, but the character of Queen Anne is such a complex character in its own right, and I think Olivia Colman kills it. Her character, like I said, she goes through a ton of illnesses, so she's always unwell. She always just has people who are belittling her, talking behind her back. She never really has a true friend outside of Sarah, but then again, Sarah also talks down to her as well and kind of treats her like a child. But the big thing with Queen Anne, and you can kind of see where her craziness really lies, is that she has been pregnant and has lost 17 children. And she even says in a scene with Abigail that every loss is you lose a little bit of yourself with each loss. And so she has 17 rabbits for each child she's lost, and so she treats these rabbits like her lost children, and so she's got a great connection to them. But you can see kind of the cracks in the character. She's just has so much loss, and then including her illness and constantly being talked down to by Lady Sarah and other people. She just loses it in certain respects, and because of that, she throws temper tantrums like a child. There's one particular chance where she yells at a young boy who she thinks was looking at him. He doesn't look at her. Then she tells him to look at him, which he then does because she's the queen. And then she yells at him for looking at him. It's a funny scene. It really is. It's a funny scene. But Olivia Colman does a fantastic job of playing this insane character of Queen Anne, and I understand why she's getting the award wins and recognition that she deserves. Rachel Weisz does a fantastic job of Lady Sarah. She's just drunk with power. She's that woman that just wants to egg everyone on and talk shit to them to their face, because she knows she's basically untouchable because of her relationship with Queen Anne. So she has the ability to just straight up just tell it like it is to someone's face and know that there's not going to be any repercussions. And Rachel Weisz does a fantastic job of that. And then when Abigail starts to come into play and you start seeing Abigail's favor start to turn the tide, you see a desperate woman who will do anything in her ability to gain her favor or full favor back to the queen, because she does not want to share her power with anyone but the queen herself. And just watching the turn of Rachel Weisz's character as Lady Sarah, as she goes from just all this power to almost nothing, is an awesome to behold, and Rachel Weisz knocks it out of the park with that respect. And then you have Emma Stone, who's basically a woman who will do anything not to fail and go back to her old ways. She's literally been all the way to the lowest of the lows, and she will die before she goes back to that. And so she's literally a woman who has nothing to lose and will step on anybody or backstab anybody that can get in her way or that can help her elevate to a better position. And so you're literally watching a desperate woman who will do and say anything she needs to elevate her status. But then once she gets that status, does not fully know quite how to handle that power, in a sense. And so you will start to see her, the stress kind of crumble her as well. And so all three of these ladies give fantastic performances in all three of their respective roles, all three unique in their own different ways, but also have similarities as well, and they all three do a fantastic job. Another shout out goes to Nicholas Hoult, who's clearly not getting any recognition for his role in this. He's great in his small role as he's basically an admiral. He's not an admiral. Maybe he's Harley. He's like the head of the parliament. So he's that guy who's always saying, we need to find ways to preserve money because the war is expensive, and he's that thorn in Rachel Weisz's side, because he's always the one that she has to battle in a sense, and she usually bests him in every way until Abigail comes along and she kind of becomes another thorn in her side, which also has her lose her sight on Nicholas Holtz's Harley character. But he in every scene he's in, he's right up there with the women in terms of the scenes, and he throws the best temper tantrums in the entire film. There's some great scenes where he just loses his shit, and it's hilarious. And he's not gonna get any recognition for this role because these three women are doing such a fantastic job. He's just kind of being blinded in terms of their glow of how amazing they are in this film. But the power struggle and the beautiful cat and mouse game of tug of war between Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz's characters are fantastic throughout. And then obviously watching their fight, a power struggle, affect the Queen is an amazing thing to watch as well. And so that right there is something, and it always keeps you on your toes as well. It's never necessarily a dull moment, which is something I can rarely say when it comes to Victorian films. It's crazy all the way through. And but yeah, those are definitely the things that work for the movie. Now, what doesn't work for the film overall is that even though I said that it's crazy and it keeps you on your toes, it still has that dryness factor that a lot of Victorian films have, where everyone's talking proper and it's just kind of dry conversation and tone. And I mean, if you're someone who's just not into that kind of stuff, it's going to come off rather dull and boring in certain points until you get to the next crazy thing that happens. So for people who aren't fans of this type of film, like me personally, you might get bored in certain respects of the film until the next crazy situation happens, or basically whenever these three women aren't on screen at the same time. And because of that, they do some weird shit in the movie to kind of shock you, or to kind of, like I said, keep you on your toes. Some of it works, and other times it's just, this is really weird. Why is this in this film? This really feels out of place. Like, one in particular, there's a dance number. Now, the dance number is crazy and funny in its own respect, but it's just something you don't... It just feels really out of place in this movie, because I just don't see anything like that in a movie like this. And because the movie's taken itself so seriously into a certain respect, situations like that, and then there's another situation in the movie with a bunch of guys and fruit. That's all I'm going to say. That just feels so out of place in the movie that just didn't really need to be in the film, and sometimes just stays on screen for way too long. That could have definitely cut the time down and maybe made the story a little bit tighter overall. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the only real stuff that doesn't work, is just some weird stuff thrown in that was not necessarily needed. They just try to throw you off your game, so you're trying to just kind of try to keep you awake almost through all the dry stuff. And then, like I said, the dryness and boringness stuff in between the shock factors. But I mean, overall thoughts, this movie's clearly not going to be for everybody. Like I said, like me, I'm not a huge Victorian fan, so if you aren't a fan of Victorian films, this is probably not going to be the film for you unless you want to see these fantastic performances from these three women and Nicholas Hoult. If that's something that you're interested in, you want to see why these women are getting all this reward buzz, then I strongly recommend The Favorite to you, and you probably will enjoy it for the most part because of the performances. Now, if that's something that you're not into, like you don't care about how performances are when it comes to award season or anything like that, and you're not a fan of Victorian films, then I can't recommend this movie for you. It's not going to do anything for you that's going to make you excited. You're not going to probably enjoy it for the most part. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie for you. Now, if you're a fan of Victorian films, I 100% recommend this movie for you. I think you guys are going to enjoy it quite a bit, as well as you being a fan of any of these actresses. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, like I said, if you're a fan of those films, 100% catch this movie when you can. If you're not, you really don't have to go out of your way to go see this, unless you just want to see these performances. And that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you feel this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button as well. And also, most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that show up on the page. And also, don't forget to follow us at all the social media outlets that you see below. And until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.